stardo. So we're going to add a little bit of fun to this and look up into outer space. Whoa. How's that, guys? That's our Earth. Say hi, Earth.
Hi, Earth.
Hi, Earth.
It's a pretty cool Earth, I think. Okay, so let's go even closer to where we are. We are in Des Moines, Iowa. Right here. Beautiful Des Moines. Now, if you look right about this area, you'll see the airport, and I think the Science Center is kind of over here. Maybe. But it's not very easy to see the stars out in the night sky when we have a lot of lights around us. So just like in downtown Des Moines, there are a lot of lights that cause light pollution. We're going to go out into the countryside, kind of like out here. Because when we have all of those lights on, they overrule the other lights of our twinkling stars. So let's take a look at the sky from the countryside. And back up again. And we're going to go on a time travel adventure. We're going to go into the future. About 5 hours. Wow. Okay, let's check out what time we've got here. So this is going to be our sky at almost midnight tonight. Can anybody point to the north? Can anybody see that right now? Yeah, it's kind of hard right now because we don't have any signals up. We don't know where the north is. So here we've got our cardinal signals. Oops, here we go. Cardinal points. Okay, now we can point to the north, right? It's got the big bright green N. That's a little bit easier. Now, ancient people used to look up at the stars, up at our night sky, and they would come up with stories because back in the day, they didn't have iPods or TV or even radio. Way back in ancient Greece or in ancient China or any ancient era. So instead, they came up with stories while they looked up at the sky. But one thing that's really, really important was the North Star. People used to use that as they were traveling out in the open ocean and they couldn't find their way back home. So they would always use the North Star to help them locate themselves. Does anybody know what the North Star's real name is? Anybody say?
Polaris.
Polaris. Very good. Let's take a look at Polaris. There we go. Polaris has not always been the North Star. So just like people have not always been the same, we didn't always have iPods, we didn't always have TV, the North Star wasn't always Polaris. It actually used to be Thuban. We'll take a look at Thuban right over here. So the ancient Greeks might have actually been looking at Thuban, although that was about 6,000 years ago. So it's difficult to say. Let's take a look at Thuban from a couple of pointer stars. If you'll notice, the shape might look familiar from where those stars pointed from. Has anybody ever heard of the Big Dipper before?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Big Dipper is actually up there. Let's take a look at the Big Dipper. Can anybody point to it first? Right here. There we go. We've got the stick figure up for that. Now the Big Dipper is actually part of a larger constellation. The Big Dipper itself is something we call an asterism. So it is a picture within the constellation. We'll talk about those in a second. But we're going to use the Big Dipper to point to Polaris. We're going to use the Big Dipper to help us find the North Star. Because contrary to popular belief, the North Star is not the brightest star in the sky. It's actually about number 50. So it's kind of faint compared to some of the others. So we're going to use these two stars right here that we call pointer stars. And we're going to draw a line right down here to Polaris. Ready, guys? And here we go. 3, 2, 1. Ding! We found Polaris. Now, if we have a Big Dipper, do you think we also have a medium-sized dipper? What about a Little Dipper? We do. We have a Little Dipper. Let's take a look at that. Here's our Little Dipper. So they look really similar right now. But like I mentioned before, these asterisms are part of a larger constellation. these asterisms are part of the constellation Ursa Major. And that means it's even bigger than what we thought. So, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor have a long history involved with them. They are something that the ancient Greeks studied and came up with stories about, and the ancient Romans adopted and came up with new stories about. But my favorite story is about how they're bears. Ursa Major actually means the big bear, and Ursa Minor in turn means the little bear. In the ancient Greek stories, a lot of them are different, but the one that I tend to stick with was about how these big bears got thrown up into the night sky. Because if you look at them, they kind of got long tails. Bears don't have tails like that. So Ursa Major, right here, was once a beautiful huntress named Callisto. And Callisto had a good friend named Zeus, and they were really good pals. But Zeus's wife Hera was not a fan of Callisto, and she got really, really mad at Zeus for spending all this time with his friend instead of with her. So she decided to turn this huntress, who was a regular, really pretty woman, into a bear. Now, the ironic thing, or the funny, kind of sad thing, was that Callisto hunted bears, and she had a son who she had taught to hunt bears too. So when Hera turned her, Callisto, into a bear, her son was hunting through the woods one day, and he saw his mother. And he saw his mother as a bear, and he tried to hunt her. But Zeus, being really good friends with Callisto, decided to step in and save the two of them. And he turned Callisto's son into a bear as well. And then to save them both from Hera's bullying, he threw them up into the night sky by their tails. And that's why they have such long tails. Just like that. Pretty silly story, huh? That's what happens if you don't have radio or iPods. Now there are a couple other really awesome constellations and asterisms in our night sky. One of them being Cassiopeia. This is Cassiopeia right here. Can anybody tell me what they think this looks like? Does this look like a W? Or an upside down M maybe? Does anybody think it looks like a queen? No? Well, it could be the queen's throne. And that's where this next story comes in. Cassiopeia was the beautiful queen of Ethiopia. But she was so beautiful that she told all of her friends about it a lot. And they got kind of tired of it. They got so tired of it that they decided to trick Cassiopeia. And what they did was they told her, Cassiopeia, we have a great idea. We're going to send you to a place where everyone can admire your beauty all the time. It was kind of a win-win because they decided to throw Cassiopeia up into the sky where they were not wrong. People could admire her beauty all the time. But they tipped her chair over, so if she was going to talk about it a lot, she would get kind of bored and kind of tired. That's what happens when you get too vain. So Cassiopeia is falling out of her throne. She, the beautiful queen of Ethiopia, needed something else while she was up in the sky. What makes a queen special? Is it her castle? Is it her crown? Is it perhaps her king? So her husband, King Cepheus, was such a good and loyal husband that he was really bummed out when they threw his wife up into the sky. And he asked to join her. So they did just that. They threw him up into the sky too. And now the two of them can hang out upstairs in our night sky. Pretty silly stories, right? We've got a couple more. I've got a constellation that looks kind of like some of the animals we have here at the Science Center. This one right here. Anybody ever heard of Draco the dragon? This is Draco, and this one kind of looks like a dragon. It also kind of looks like a kite, but if you squint really hard, you can maybe imagine a dragon. So Draco the dragon, here we go, that looks more like a dragon. Draco the dragon was one of the 12 labors of Hercules. Anybody ever heard of Hercules before? Hercules was a Greek hero, and he had to go through 12 different challenges. One of them was to steal golden apples from Atlas, this giant person who holds our world up in the Greek mythology. So he went to this special place where Draco the dragon was guarding a golden apple tree, a gift that Hera, the the goddess that we talked about a minute ago, had gotten for her wedding day to her husband Zeus. And he tried to steal those apples, and it was not working very well, because this dragon was really, really powerful. So in order to get those apples, he threw the dragon up into the sky, and the dragon got stuck, and he got his apples, and he meandered away. So the next constellation we have is right over here. This one kind of looks like a happy person running through a field, doesn't it? Anybody else see that? He's like, yippee, look at me, I'm in a field. Or, yippee, I'm in the stars, woohoo. But this one is another silly story. This one is actually called Camelopardalis. And if you break down that name, you'll find that the word means camel leopard, leopard camel. And this is what the ancient Greeks called giraffes. They had never seen one before. So when they finally saw one, as they migrated around the Middle East, and they thought it was part leopard, part camel, which is not too strange of an idea if you really think about it. And so they decided to record that idea in history up into the night sky. Now these constellations are called circumpolar constellations, which basically means that they rotate around our North Star. Let me get them moving a little bit. Here we go. We're going to go back in time. And as you'll notice, all of these stars are moving. They're moving all over the place. Uh-oh, we went too far back. And they always stay close to the North Star, which means we can see them throughout the entire year. It's pretty great, because then we can work on learning all of our constellations as we stare at the night sky. But each season has different constellations that... Oops. I don't know. There we go. Each seasons have different constellations that pop up, because the Earth rotates in different directions around the Sun, so different parts of our night sky are lighted up. In this season, in the spring equinox, which, does anybody remember the first day of spring? I think this year it was March 21st, so that is the first day of the vernal equinox, or the spring equinox, and we were able to start seeing more constellations for the spring. One of them was Leo. Here we go, here we've got Leo. Leo is another one of Hercules' 12 labors. Leo the lion was a huge, ferocious lion that terrorized parts of ancient Greece. And Hercules used his bare hands to wrestle this lion. And he beat the lion. And he saved a bunch of people who were really, really terrified of it. And then, guess what he did? He threw it up into the sky with everybody else. So Leo the lion, one of the 12 labors of Hercules, is just one of the many constellations we can see during the spring. Another one, another really cool animal, is Cancer. We've got this one coming up right here. It's just a little guy. Cancer is a crab. And Cancer was briefly mentioned in the Hercules 12 challenges. He doesn't play a huge part, but he was there, so he also gets to be in the sky. Now Leo and Cancer are part of the zodiac months. So if you were born maybe in August or July, you might have Leo as your zodiac sign. Or if you were born earlier in July, you might have Cancer. Pretty cool. Now, our fabled hero, Hercules. Let's take a look at his constellation. Here he is. Does that look like a hero to you? Does this big splotch look like a hero? Well, it kind of looks like a spider or a weird fox. But we'll use our imagination again and bring up that art. Looks a little bit better, doesn't it? So you'll see he's got the lion's mane as his suit of armor. He's got some snakes, probably from fighting Medusa, and that looks like it's one of his weapons. Now, what's interesting about the constellations that we see is that we see them all in two-dimensional space. We see the sticks of art like they look like they were drawn on paper. But actually these different stars are in different planes. So we could be looking at stars that are 400 billion years old or 400 billion light years away. Or we could be looking at different stars that are only 200 light years away. So different ages means that we find these different stars at different times. And we get to see their light on those years, how long it takes that light to travel through space. So we're going to take a look at all of the constellations right now, see how many we can see in our night sky when everything is lit up. Some of them with brighter stars than others, stars that may be closer to Earth, stars that may be larger, stars that might be exploding right now even as we speak. Let's take a look at those arts so we can get these more imaginative stories up and running too. We see a lot of different constellations, don't we? We've got Lyra right here, that's an instrument. We've got, oh goodness, there's so many. We've got our Ursa Major, we've got the hunting dogs. You'll even find Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky, in one of these dogs' constellations. We'll find Orion. Where's Orion? I think Orion's behind us. No? Oh, he's still below us. Okay. Now, as I was talking about those different stars coming on different planes, let's take a look at all of them. Let's fly through those constellations. Does that sound pretty cool? I think so. We're going to turn off Polaris and Thuban in order to do that. That's just going to be confusing if we have them on the. So we're going to fly around these constellations. And here we go. Hi, Earth. Oh, look, there goes our moon. So as we look at these different constellations, they kind of look like a sea urchin right now. All these different points sticking out at different times. But pay attention to the bright dots that are connected to the blue lines, and you'll see that those are stars that we were just looking at as two-dimensional images. So just looking at like pictures on a piece of paper. And now we can see with more perspective how they're actually kind of 3D images. Constellations orbit around the outside of our galaxy and throughout our universe.
Okay, it's done. Good.
So we're flying back home now. Is that our Earth again?
Yeah, it's an Earth.
Say hi, Earth. So I talked about how different cultures had different stories for all of these different stars that we see in the night sky. Well, it wasn't just the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans who came up with little stick images. The Chinese even had their own asterisms, so the different images that we see within the constellations. I'm going to show some of those right now. So we're looking at our night sky again. There we go. These images are going to look a lot different from some of the Western Hemisphere constellations. Now in our Western Hemisphere we have 88 decided constellations. Let's go ahead and even see the brightest star in the galaxy. You guys ready for that? Wait until this stops moving. seriously bright. Hold on to your seats. Okay, there we go. Now we got it. So, going towards Sirius actually brought us to the constellation Orion. Do you guys want to see Orion? Yes. That's Orion right there. And you might have heard of Orion before because he's another one of those heroes in the Greek mythology. And he was really well known for being a hunter and a warrior. And one of the things that you might have heard of before is Orion's belt. That's these 3 stars right here. These are really easy to pick out in the night sky, so we always point these out. The 3 stars of Orion's belt. And you can even still see him during the spring, although he's more of a winter constellation, or a winter asteroid. Now, I have a special treat for all of you guys. Who here likes to make wishes? Me too. Since I don't have any dandelions or any extra special flowers, we're gonna wish on shooting stars. Does that sound pretty good? Okay. So shooting stars are actually meteorites. They're different particles of dust or large comets that have broken into our Earth's atmosphere and are being burnt up right at the atmosphere, this thing that protects our Earth and lets us breathe oxygen. So you guys ready for a meteor shower? You gotta think of a couple of wishes and get rid of the stick figure. Here we go. I'm already making some wishes. I hope you guys are making wishes too. Nice. Alright, so we're gonna make 3 more wishes. Finish up our show. Alright. We'll save the wishes for next time. Back to the regular sky that we're going to see if we walk out right now. This is our sky, guys. So, time traveling over. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our Iowa Skies show, and please have a wonderful rest of